Hey everyone, Colbert here. Today we're going to use about another 10x that's coming to the game, a 10x summoning event. So guys, if you don't know already what a 10x summoning event is, basically the rates are just the same as before, but the champion rates are times 10. So it's still going to be 8% for an epic and 0.5% for a legendary out of an ancient, for example. But if you get the legendary, then it's a 10x chance to get that specific legendary that is featured. So in this 10x, we've got a block revive theme, but not all block revive champions are featured in this game. And the most important block revive champion that could be featured in a 10x would have been ROTOS, but he's not featured in this one. So ROTOS, as you guys know, is a really kind of overpowered, I think, in my opinion, champion in the game right now. He has a great A3, which does have a block revive, so enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. Before we get into the champions that are in the 10x that's coming on tomorrow, I'm going to explain a little bit on how a block revive works. Basically, it stops the enemy from reviving. Very simple. I mean, there's not much details into that. Accuracy does not matter. Some people thought that accuracy does matter with the block revive, but it does not matter. If that was the case, then I would be going accuracy with my ROTOS, but instead with just 124, I always get that block revive going on enemies. Why is block revive so important? First of all, we're gonna think of the dungeons. Of course, the dungeons aren't all that difficult except one specific one in terms of blocking the revive of. In Minotaur's Labyrinth, you won't find any enemies that have, that give your team a ton of trouble and they need to be block revived. The Spider's Den does not work. Block revive does not work on the small spiderlings. The Dragon's Lair also, again, does not have any enemies that do pose a threat, and maybe there's a reviver in there. There's no such enemies in there. The same thing with the Fire Knight's Castle, but the Ice Golem's Peak does have those two enemies in the end, which do require you to actually block revive the two ads near the ice golem. If you do that, then the run becomes so much easier. You basically block revive the two ads in the end, and the ice golem's boss cannot revive them. He can revive up to 4 times, and he becomes very annoying, especially because he does way more damage when those two ads are alive. So a block revive champion in there, something like a ROTOS and something like maybe a Luria, a Xavier, these are like the most important ones, I think, in my opinion, can really help in bringing down the boss that much faster, especially if you're having trouble in Ice Golems 20. Of course, guys, before we go to the 10x summoning event and if it's worth it to summon for you, always remember, guys, that the most important champion that you can have that does have a block revive and is free, and that's why he's so important, is Armiger. Armiger, guys, is my go-to champion for many dungeons, and whenever I can use him and I find ways to use him, I do use him. He's very easily obtainable from the market, from mystery shards, and he does have that block revive on his A2 with a 2 turns cooldown, which is fantastic. Damage is based on max HP, so you guys know that this hit will be hitting very hard on enemies, especially if you have him endgame geared like I do have mine. So 99% crit, 230% critical damage. He hits quite hard with a relentless set. So enough with the talk, let's go through all the champions that are featured in the 10x. I'm gonna name them right now, and then we're gonna go through the list. So it's first one is Enith with Bloodwind, then it's Xavier, Blood Gorge, Foley, macabre, Excruciator, Phoenix, and Luria. So guys, Enith with Bloodwind is a Void legendary. If you did happen to get him with the 2x Voids, I know some of you guys certainly did get him. You guys know that he has this specific passive, and this is what makes him so great, because he's not locked into one specific skill for his block revive to actually be activated like other champions. This champion has it on his passive, and I think it's fantastic, because even if he does his A1, A2, or A3, the enemy will die if Enith is the one that does the damaging. I do not have him to actually know how hard he hits, but I do think he's very annoying, especially in the arena, and he has a huge base attack. So 1729 base attack. I think it's fantastic for a damage dealer that poses such a huge threat in the arena. He will block revive your champions, and in the arena specifically, you're gonna have a very hard time to actually beat them if your damage dealer, your main damage dealer, for example, your ROTOS, is block revived. Next up, guys, it's gonna be the champion that I really want to get, but I don't think I'll be summoning in this 10x. It's gonna be Xavier. She's a Force legendary champion. Xavier is fantastic for speedruns in the end game. She does apply poisons with her A1 and her A2, so she's great as a poisoner as well if you want to use her in the clan boss, although her A3 is what makes her a bit difficult in using her in the clan boss, because what this does is it deals damage from all poison debuffs on the target instantly. So it basically eliminates all poisons from the target, and then enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. So it's an AoE. She basically bursts all poisons on the target. She does all that damage to the target, and if it's a wave, it's gonna do full damage. If it's a boss, she's gonna be doing half the standard damage, and it's written right here in her skill. So if you guys have seen other videos before, Xavier is used for very fast setups in going through the waves and then reaching the boss and trying to get, you know, very short times in clearing a specific dungeon. If that was not enough, she also has another skill when Bellanor is in the same team. So she can apply a debuff spread effect, taking 4 random debuffs from the target and placing them on all enemies. So she works great with Bellanor if you happen to get him from the Void 2X. Next one on the list, guys, is gonna be another Force legendary champion. It's gonna be Blood Gorge. He was reworked a while ago. I do not have this champion, so I haven't really played around with this champion, but this champion does have a block revive, and he is featured in the 10x. So his A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, 55% chance of placing a 60% decreased debuff for 2 turns. It's good, it's not bad, it's good as an A1, and then his A2 attacks all enemies, puts one of each target skills on cooldown. This was, I think, changed during his rework in the past. So guys, his A2 called Raging Beast attacks all enemies, puts one of each target skills on cooldown. This is very important if you're fighting in the arena. You need a way to lock down the enemy's cooldowns, and Blood Gorge brings this into the fight. And also with his A3, this is where the block revive comes in. So attacks one enemy, will ignore defense. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. This is very important. He can ignore defense, and this is very strong versus very high defense targets. For example, a Valkyrie in there, without her shield on, she will still have probably 6,000 to 7,000 defense. That's very hard to go through even with Helm Smasher and maybe endgame gear like Savage gear. But because of this skill, Blood Gorge can actually just ignore all that and just go for the kill. If he manages to kill Valkyrie, for example, it's gonna make your life so much easier in the arena. Next up, guys, it's gonna be another legendary attack champion that does make my life very hard in the arena, especially when I go with my Rotos. It's gonna be Foley, and especially his A3 skill called Sealed Fate. Foley does have close to 1,500 attacks, so he is, as an attack champion, a huge threat for my Rotos, because if Rotos gets block revived, I'm doomed. So attacks all enemies, decreases the turn resist by 15%. That's great already. Then attacks the targeted enemy, so it's gonna be my Rotos. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. This can go as an AoE. A very beefed up Foley will make my life hell in the arena. He will block revive all my champions, and I'll be left probably with 1 or 2 left standing, usually my most tankiest ones, maybe my Arbiter and my Duchess, and that's gonna do nothing because my DPS characters will be down and will not be able to be revived, and I've lost the match. Not only that, Foley also has this very good passive, so heals this champion by 20% of their max HP and boosts their turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy places stun, freeze, sleep, or provoke on this champion. This works great against champions like Torment, but there's also so many other champions that do apply all these kind of debuffs. And then it immediately removes all stun, freeze, sleep, and provoke debuffs from this champion. This has, of course, a cooldown, so it's not every turn, just to make it a bit more reasonable as a passive. And finally, guys, in the legendary category, featured in this 10x, there's another legendary that is not featured in the 10x. It's gonna be Mortu Macabre. He also has a block revive, and the way that he has a block revive is using his peril. Of course, you've seen Mortu Macabre in the brutal campaign stage 12-7. He's in there, and you go in, this randomly procs because he has a 20% chance to unlock his skill. This is not always active. So when that unlocks, he basically goes insane, attacks one enemy 2 times, will ignore shield and block damage buffs, as well as defense. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. This is fantastic if it procs to use against champions like Rotos, especially in the arena, but also anywhere else, because this basically ignores many protective buffs, but also defense, which is another way for you to mitigate damage dealt on your champions. So this would be a fantastic skill if it wasn't for that 20% chance to unlock. So Mortu, in my opinion, is not a champion worth summoning, but if you do get him, then there might be some uses for him in the faction wars. For example, I do have him and I have him maxed out. I'm gonna showcase him tomorrow, so if you're interested in a video on that, just click that subscribe button so you guys know when to see that video. Finally, in this list, there's going to be 3 epics that are featured in the 10x, and these 3 epics do have a block revive. First one is going to be Excruciator. She was the meta for a while in the arena. I do have her fully maxed out, but I haven't done a video on her. She will also be featured in a video just to showcase her beautiful block revive skills. So what Excruciator does, guys, is she basically hides herself with Veil in the beginning of the round, so the beginning of the arena, and then her A2 skill called Neck Snapper can basically block revive the enemy when she hits while under the Veil buff. So while attacking under Veil buff, enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. Even if she does not have this, then she will be able to deplete the target's perimeter and fills this champion's perimeter equal to the amount that the target loses. And she can only decrease the perimeter by 50% against bosses. I mean, this shouldn't exist here because it wouldn't be all that overpowered. There's other champions in the game that do have this and are not that overpowered. This perimeter decrease cannot be resisted. This is great because she does not need accuracy to actually decrease the perimeter. So a fantastic way to use Excruciator. Before the rise of ROTOS in the arena, Excruciator was used to kill off Torments, because as you guys know, Torment has a very annoying revive when he dies, but because Excruciator could be protected in the beginning of the turn, you could go in with your A2, a very high damaging skill, and try to kill off that that annoying Torment using that A2. And she was used for quite a while in the arena as a way to basically counter a Torment that was very high in the threat list. There wasn't a ROTOS in there who could survive a single attacking skill, so Excruciator was very commonly used in the high-end arena. Next up, guys, it's gonna be Luria. So Luria is an epic champion again. So she is Spirit. I do have her fully maxed out. I haven't done a video on her, but I will do one in the future. So Mark of Fear is what Luria does. Attacks all enemies. 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. So this one is on her A2. This is a great skill in my opinion. It's fantastic for the dungeons and it's fantastic for arena as well. This is a high damaging skill. If you do not happen to kill the enemies, there's a very good chance for you to actually freeze them. So she does have that way to control the enemies, but also in case she gets the kill, she can also just block revive them and become even a higher threat for the enemy team. So 1.5k attack almost, and she also has a very nice A3 attacks when enemy, removes all buffs, also has an 80% chance of placing a block buffs debuff. So this is another skill that can be used in the arena. She was one of my 30 champions that I used for the recent spicy chicken challenge, but I didn't happen to get her, so I just couldn't fully showcase her in the spicy chicken challenge. Finally, guys, in this 10x, it's gonna be Phoenix. Phoenix is one of the only champions that I have not taken to level 60 in terms of epics that do have the block revive. He has the block revive on his A1, guys, so this can actually be used in possibly like a semi blender setup. So you can have a high damage dealing champion go first and then Phoenix follow up using his A1. So attacks one enemy, plays an extra hit if the target has any debuffs. That's gonna be the case. Usually enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived, so it's gonna be on his A1. If I'm not mistaken, his A1 is actually a very hard hitting A1, and because he's an attack based champion with a 1454 attack, that's quite good, and his A1 is going to be hitting quite hard and also have that additional threat on enemies. So he can also be used in the arena. You apply those debuffs on enemies, he'll do a double hit basically, so he can actually even be a threat for champions like ROTOS. But since he is Spirit Affinity, that's going to be an issue, because if he gets a weak hit in, it's not going to be as effective in terms of damage potential. So guys, before we close off the video, there's other champions that were not included in this 10x summoning but do have that block revive. One of them is Queen Eva. Queen Eva is not featured in this 10x. I think she should have been featured. She has the block revive on her A2, so attacks one enemy 2 times. So Queen Eva is most commonly used just as a farmer right now, but she also has the block revive in case you were wondering. and 2 other epics that do have a block revive. One of them is going to be Maeve. Maeve, I think, is going to be one of the champions that will be reworked, if I'm not mistaken, but she does have the block revive, yeah, on her A3. It's called Stay Down, so that's cool. And then we also have the Ogrin tribes. We've got Occult Brawler, who has that special A2, which actually can block revive on an enemy if Occult Brawler has 2 or more debuffs on him. So guys, what are you gonna do this 10x? Are you gonna be summoning? Are you gonna try to get that Foley or maybe Xavier through that 10x? I don't know, guys. I've got 39 ancient shards. I don't think I'll be using them. I'll just wait for the 2x instead, hopefully to get something better. So yeah, leave your comments down below. What do you think of this 10x? Will you be summoning? Which one of these champions would you like featured in a specific guide video or just a showcase video? Leave it also down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.